All right, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday training. And as you guys have read, the training will be focused on how to set clear boundaries in your business. And as a CEO, you need to understand or need to know that boundaries are everything in business because it helps you navigate and set the tone for your business. And three of the things that we're gonna be looking at when it comes to boundaries, it's gonna be one of them is setting the boundary, two, communicating the boundary, and three, adhering to the boundaries. So that's pretty much what we're going to be covering today in this training. And, as you walk away from this training, it will help you to go ahead and get out there in your business and also use the same framework in order to set boundaries in different aspects and different areas in your business. And in this training, I'm going to focus in three different areas of the business when it comes to customer service, clients, and team. Now, how do we set the first boundary, which is setting the boundary, right? How do we set that boundary? What do we need to be looking at in order to set that first boundary when it comes to customer service, clients, or team? So, setting the boundary is pretty much about thinking, right? Whether it's a customer, a client, or a team member. What is it that we want to communicate? What is it that we're trying? What's the end goal at the end of the day, right? And if I take, for example, customer service, there's so many inquiries coming in your inbox, in your social media day to day. So you need to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm comfortable with, or what is it that I can actually do in the business that is going to help me to convey, that I see my ideal client, that they matter to me, and make helps me feel, that I'm still like keeping balance in the business because you get to have both. So by setting that boundary, okay, I'm able to answer emails twice a day, and then I'll be able to go ahead and send a reply. I can set a what they call a canned email, which is we received your email, thank you very much. We'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. That's an example for customer service. And for you, it's like okay, that's setting the boundary there. Perfect. Now, step number two here would be after we've set the boundary, how am I going to communicate that boundary, which is step number two. And communicating that boundary is so important because we ultimately think that just by saying, okay, I'll just communicate the boundary and that's it. But it starts with you by communicating that boundary and actually putting it in writing and putting it into a Google Doc, detailing it to the T exactly how that's going to take place. It's easier for you as you start growing your team, as you start bringing people on board, to just hand over that communication of how that boundary works and both of you be on the same page, or all 10 of you be on the same page. In our case, for example, with my husband, it's like communication has become crucial because he needs to understand what's going on. And if I have no clue, he's not going to have any clue, right? Um, so it requires a lot of communication and for you to be very, very clear as the CEO, as the leader, as the person that they're looking to in order to find, okay, what's the next step here? If you don't know, and you can't expect them to know as well. So it's just communicating that boundary. So just like I mapped it out right now, I'll answer the email within 24 hours to 48 hours, write it down, and you pass that along, and it becomes easier. Now, the thing that I find difficult for some clients and that at some point I went through is with point number three, when we have to adhere to the boundary. Point number three, it's going to happen at any point. Adhering to boundaries is crucial. We need to stick to the boundary ourselves first in order for it to be successful. Because if we set boundary one and two and we do not stick to it, it's going to create chaos for everyone in the business, for the customer, for the team, and for you. And you're going to resent, you're going to feel your team members are not doing, they're not helping you, and you feel overwhelmed and stressed out. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like if you have to look back at this framework, did you set the boundary? Great. Did you communicate it? All right. But I didn't adhere to it. Like I'm not responding to emails within 24 hours or 48 hours. So if a team member sends you a request, right, and you don't answer it till 4 days later, and you go back and the project's not done, it's really not your team member's fault that they couldn't move further along in the project because you didn't do step number 3 of setting the boundary, which was adhere to that specific boundary, which is replying back in the time frame that you yourself have set, which is 24 to 48 hours. And I'm setting that as an example. So by just following that framework of what we've been covering right now, setting the boundary, communicating and adhering to boundaries, we're able to create a balance in our business and a structure for everything to work accordingly. So if we take this framework and we bring it into clients, it's going to create such a great work. So let's dive into that one. Well, if we go into clients, right, and we're going to set the boundary, how is it that we do that first? We do it by thinking, okay, I'm going to work with this client, and the way I'm going to work with them is through one-on-one calls and once a week. And then during or in between sessions, we're going to communicate through Basecamp, through Slack. Okay, how often am I going to be there, right? Because most likely they're not going to be the only client you're going to have. And there's other things that you need to do as a CEO. So you need to sit down, take your Google Doc document out and start typing. Okay, how am I, when am I going to go in and answer to their inquiries? When am I going to go in, support them? So for example, for me, I go in 10 a.m., I check in with my clients, and then I check back again 4 o'clock. In that, I set in communication since the time that they sign contract with us or agreements, they know specifically how communication is going to be like. Email's not available. All communication gets done in the in that channel of Basecamp, and then anything that needs to be submitted will be answered, right? If I need to look over copy, if I need to look over sales pages, metrics, if I need to look over what's something else I look over, content, whatever it is that I'm looking over, I will do that in those specific time frames. That allows for my client to know, okay, if I want Patty to look at this and for me to get her support, I have to submit it today, this evening, so then I can get, she'll be able to see it in the morning and I'll be able to get a response. So that creates a clear communication for the client. For me, I've set the boundary. They've accepted that boundary. Now they're going to respect it. Now I need to adhere to it. So I need to make sure that I'm going in those times, right? And answering and providing the feedback that they need at those times. So it's so important. But a lot of the times when clients come to the calls and they're like, oh, I'm just stressed out, overwhelmed, and I don't know what to do. And I go and I do check-ins and I'm like, all right, so do we have a boundary there? Yes. Did you communicate it? Yes. Did you adhere to it? Majority of the time it's like, no, I didn't. I just didn't. I got frustrated and, this and this and that. And it's like, all right, so how can we make it better here, right? Can we go back? If it had to do something with us, can we go back and work at it? Do we need to readjust this boundary? Is this boundary really working for you? Is it really working with your client? Because, at the end of the day, we are business owners and we can make adjustments as necessary. But if it's something that's not serving you or your clients, because we get to have both, then we need to go ahead and make the changes there. So that's one way, one example that we can set boundaries, communicate boundaries, and adhere to them when it comes to clients. Now, the other one that I really like and I really enjoy, and it's just, if you can set these three, if this framework with team, it just creates a great work environment for everybody. So for example, how do we set the boundary with team? Okay. When you bring on a team member to your business, they don't see into your head. They don't know what the vision for the business is. They don't know what it is that you want. You need to be as crystal clear as possible as to where you want your business to go, and then let them know how they can support you to bring that vision to life. So setting the boundary, for example, would be, communication will be between 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. and they can get back to you within 24-hour frame. If there's a project, we're going to communicate via Slack channel. For example, for me, everything communication is done through Slack. Everything gets managed in ClickUp, and I think email is pretty much just done for customers, customer inquiry. But everything else, team, clients, they have their own channel of communication. So for team, it's like, all right, please communicate with me in Slack if anything needs to get approved. Like, don't think that I'm just going to know that something needs to get approved. let me know what needs to get approved. I'll go in, let me know exactly where I need to go, and then I'll go and approve or disapprove whichever, the project. So that's setting the boundary. Communicate with me in Slack, communicate with me between those hours at the time, and I'll get back within 24 hours. For team as well, the expectation is okay, can we communicate in Slack, get back to me within 24 hours. Obviously, if there's a holiday or if there's a weekend, I understand there's going to be a 48-hour delay. So we're setting the boundary. Now we're communicating. We communicate that to contracts. We communicate that through our agreements. And we adhere to them by sticking to them. Same thing. Just how you wouldn't wait 48 hours to answer to a client when you've said 24, you're not going to wait till the last day to give your team a response. It's like a funny case. I'm going to put myself here on blast, but my husband, right? I needed to give some points to him because he needed to help me with the slides. And he had been asking and asking. I've had them sitting there, but I just have so many things going on. My boundary is by such date, I should give that to you. I've communicated that to him, but I need to take the extra step by sticking to it, right? So I can't get upset over the fact if I'm feeling pressured, because I didn't do that last step. I didn't adhere to the boundary. So I need to stick to it. It starts with me. So if Tuesday is my cutoff to have those points up and loaded into Google Drive, then I'm going to feel okay. He doesn't have to be waiting on me, and he just can keep on going and doing what he wants with whatever he needs to do. So the structure helps along to create an easy flow, a balance as to communication, helping you feel, structured, knowing exactly what needs to happen, and the business keeps going. And when you need to do things, you just don't feel so pressured. You don't feel stressed because you're like, all right, everything's working along. But this is a process that requires as much clarity from you, but as well for you to communicate that to your team. A lot of times we think that because we have it in our head, they're going to understand, and that's not the case. That's why I say that the number 2 point here is communication, because you need to explain it and make sure that your team, clients, and the customers are understanding clearly what the boundary is, because your version of understanding doesn't mean that that's their version. So, you communicate it, you have them, you have any questions, and then reiterate, right? Sometimes you'll say, you know what, I have 24 hours, and they're going to push, and we need it right now. No, it's 24 hours, right? That's adhering to your boundary. So if it's already been set, if it's been already communicated, now you need to adhere to it, because it goes both ways. It goes with you committing to it, but also when they're trying to push that boundary for you to not push back in a negative way, but kind of be like, no, this is the boundary, and I can get back to it within 24 hours. Next time around, if there's something urgent, we already know, right? The specific structure that we have and that we need to follow. So let me see, what else do I see here? Because I saw a comment. Okay, so then that's how we would set it with team. That's how we set it with clients and with customer service. Now, why is this so important? Because a lot of times we tend to resent our business because there's no clear communication, and we think that it's everybody else's fault. It's the customer's fault. It's the team's fault. We need to find someone else. We just don't jive. It's the client. He's just being difficult. And in reality, if you take a look back, it starts with us, right? So when I first started in business, and my husband can tell you guys, my phone would go off like nonstop. Sometimes I was already off the clock, walking into, one of our meetings at 7:00, and the phone would go off. I didn't have to answer that phone call. I didn't. I had a choice not to answer it. But because I was like, oh no, but it must be an emergency. Let me just take care of it. I would spend like maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes on a call with a client that just wanted to vent. It really wasn't an emergency. So then I was upset and I was resentful for it. It created this situation here where it's like, you didn't need to take that call. And it's like, you're right. But I got upset because I had violated, right, that. The step number 3 was adhering to the boundaries, where I was answering the phone. So I thought, oh, a second phone's going to be a great idea. That's going to help me stick to my boundaries. Nope, it didn't. It just starts with you respecting your own boundaries. It happened with phone. It happened with email. So now what I do is I have no email on my tablet. I try not to go to bed with my laptop. And I do have it on my phone, but it's not something that I'm constantly checking. I will try to charge it as away my phone from me, so I'm not on it. Because it's just easy habit to go through your phone and start answering, and then you're tired, and then your brain's going on and on and on all day long, and it's like, I'm always working. Well, yes, you're not respecting the boundaries you've set yourself. So if you want to avoid burnout and you want to, be in love with the business that you have, everything needs to have a place in your business. And we do that by using this specific framework of, again, the 3 steps: setting the boundary, communicating the boundary, and adhering to the boundaries. Now, this is going to create the structures and the balance in your business that are going to help you to really truly love your business. And also, it's going to create a great customer experience for your clients. And guess what? They're going to be raving about you. And then your clients are going to, go and want to resign more with you. So it's going to be a whole cycle of positivity around you because you have clear set boundaries and you're constantly communicating them and you're constantly adhering to it. Is it going to be easy? No, it's just like a muscle. You need to train it. And the more and more you do it and the more you correct, the easier this is going to get. And it's not going to feel so hard if you're just starting to create these boundaries right now, early in your business. So pretty much today we've covered that's framework for how to set boundaries. And just as a recap, how do we do it? By 3-step framework: setting the boundary, communicating the boundary, and adhering to the boundary. So if you have any questions and you need support specifically, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the comments below. We'll come right ahead back and answer questions. And I hope that this has served you and helped you. And if you have any more specific questions on any of the 3 of the framework, go ahead and drop them, and we'll be more than happy to go ahead and support you in that. So if I don't see any questions here, that's it for today, and I will see you again soon here next week. Bye.